What's up, everybody? J Heat Sports Media coming at y'all again with that fire as always. Spitting the hot topics and getting the sports conversation started. Y'all know what I talk about: football, basketball, and boxing. We're getting into some basketball. I know y'all saw the Warriors clinch the series against Sacramento, Game 7. Let's talk about it. The legacy, the man, the myth, Steph Curry, the dynasty that is the Warriors. So I want to talk about Steph Curry and the great performance he had just yesterday. Broke the record for Game 7's 50 points, and he did it in regulation. When Kevin Durant, who had the record, had scored 48 in his Game 7, one, Kevin Durant didn't win, and it was overtime, if I'm not mistaken. And two, Steph Curry got it done in regulation and probably could have did a little bit more. So that was outstanding performance. But what it reminds me of and what it makes me think about is just the greatness not only of Steph Curry, but the Warriors dynasty. I saw a lot of posts on Twitter and Instagram giving credit not just to Steph Curry, but Mark Jackson for being the one that really instilled the confidence in Steph Curry and them, and being the reason for the dynasty that they have from a coaching perspective. And to me, that's a little disingenuous because we don't give enough credit to Steve Kerr. See, the reason the Warriors have this dynasty and the reason we get 50 points last night from Steph Curry on 38 shots, which is what's major, is the fact that Steve Kerr came around. Mark Jackson laid a foundation for the Warriors, called them the best shooting backcourt ever, and empowered them to take the jump shots and to be able to take them in bunches, which taking shots from that deep before, from 30, 35 feet away from the court, that was something that would get you benched. But Mark Jackson allowed that to happen. But Mark Jackson's foundation was based around defense. It was based around an ISO type of game, isolating Steph Curry mainly, but also Klay Thompson. And it got them to the playoffs, but they would lose in the first or second round. When Steve Kerr came along, he changed everything and really made that team a dynasty and helped to create the Steph Curry we see today. The confidence Mark had in Steph, Kerr saw that as well, continued with that confidence in Curry and Klay, but then added more to the team. You got to remember, back then, David Lee was starting, who was an all-star from the Knicks. He came over to Golden State. Iguodala, who had been an all-star in Philly, was starting. It was Steve Kerr who put Harrison Barnes into the lineup, who, as a starter, who also put Draymond Green into the starting lineup, benched David Lee and Andre Iguodala. Iguodala didn't like that at first. Took him some time to come around to the greatness of Steve Kerr in making that move. It deepened the bench, but it also brought something to the offense as well. He kept the D that Mark Jackson established, necessarily so, but then made more with it. So when Steve Kerr developed the offense and put those guys on the bench, it brought out more to the concept of what he wanted to do. Defense, but also a flow for the offense. You got to remember, Steve Kerr, what you see when you watch Steph Curry go for 50 last night in Game 7 and be able to take 38 shots to do it, has a lot to do with the offense he envisioned. He brought a motion offense, which he saw playing under Phil Jackson. Resemblance of the triangle, but not quite. Then he also encouraged the guys to pass and make the extra pass, something Draymond didn't like, because Draymond wanted to just make the play, and passing up one shot to get a better shot and keeping the ball moving at first was something even he didn't like. But again, Steve Kerr got that from the San Antonio Spurs, who he also played with that dynasty as well. Seeing Popovich and Phil Jackson paid major dividends to Steve Kerr's acumen for the basketball game and helped that team. He also, being the general manager in Phoenix, saw the pace D'Antoni brought, and he upped the pace with the Warriors. And finally, he was constantly getting put in pick and rolls all the time by Jerry Salone's Jazz, which John Stockton, who's a pro at it, with Karl Malone, and he set up that in his offense. So with the Jazz's offense, the Phoenix Suns offense, the Spurs, and and the Bulls, Steve Kerr put all that together into one pot and made the dynasty that you see, with Steph Curry being the head of the snake. It was an incredible move. The way he shifted the starting lineup and the bench helped to set up the strengthened numbers theory that they started, in which case he got that from Popovich as well, because he always said Popovich played his whole roster, sometimes deep 11th, 12th guy, because you never knew when you might need him in a big situation. So everybody's always ready. All of that equates to when you see Steph running all around, giving the ball up, coming back to get the ball, giving it up again, coming back again. That pass after that pass, the motion, all of that has to do with Steve Kerr. And when he says in the press conference after a game, we don't appreciate Curry enough, you got to remember we don't appreciate Kerr enough either. It's both of them. I agree with him about Curry. He does it all the time. And because we see it so often, it becomes a normal event and we take it for granted. But we also take for granted Steve Kerr when we automatically say, well, Mark Jackson could have did this if he was in the lineup and if he was the coach, and we took Mark Jackson's job, and he's responsible really for them being the Warriors. He's the foundation. Steve Kerr put up walls and put a roof on the building. And that's how they became a championship dynasty. So credit to Steve Kerr, credit to Steph Curry. When you empower somebody as the coach in sports, you allow that player to shine and go to his true greatness, because he knows I can pull up from 50 feet and not have to worry about getting put on the bench. And being the greatest shooter of all time like Steph Curry, that's an awesome and excellent confidence that he got from Steve Kerr, because he can just play carefree as you see him play and not worry about anything other than getting a bucket and helping his team. So great game by Steph Curry. Steve Kerr and Curry, that connection created a dynasty, and we still are watching it today. Let's see what happens as the playoffs progresses. All right, that's all the time I got. Y'all know what it is, and you know what you're looking for. J Heat Sports Media. Remember to like, subscribe, and get at me. Let's go back and forth on the comments. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, at the Vault JMU414 on Twitter, and of course, what's up TikTok? Holla at y'all next time.